Love, love, until I feel the breath of the Spirit flowing in me.
Hello and welcome to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich. Our guest today is Father Aurelio Fragapane, and we'll be discussing Our Lady Queen of Peace's message and reading it from the 25th of March 2017. Welcome to the program, Father.
Hello, thank you.
Thanks for coming back again.
Great.
Our Lady said on the 25th of March 2017, "Dear children, in this time of grace I'm calling all of you to open your hearts to God's mercy, to begin a new life through prayer, penance, and a decision for holiness. This time of spring moves you to a new life, to a renewal in your thoughts and hearts. Therefore, little children, I am with you to help you to say yes to God and to God's commandments with resoluteness. You are not alone. I am with you through the grace which the Most High gives me for you and your descendants. Thank you for having responded to my call." So I'll start with reading the first sentence. Our Lady said, "Dear children, in this time of grace, I'm calling all of you to open your hearts to God's mercy." I'll just stop there. We'll just go with
Sure.
that for the moment. Yeah, in this time of grace, I'm calling all of you to open your hearts to God's mercy. So basically, she's asking us to even say to God, have mercy on me and help me in whatever I'm going through.
That's right. And you know, how does one really open one's heart?
Yeah.
You know, it's a very difficult thing to do, and it means that, you know, to open one's heart means to trust. You know, it means to be vulnerable. It means to be able to receive, but it also means to be able to give.
Yeah.
And so, I guess to open our hearts to this time of grace and to God's mercy, we need to recognize firstly that we're sinners. And then unless we recognize that, you know, our hearts will always remain closed, and we're always going to be searching things of this world, not the world to come. And you know that everything that we can see is mortal. You know, it's going to die. But those things that can't be seen are immortal. And one of those things that we have is our soul, which is immortal. And often people sort of think, well, when you die, that's it. It's all over. But no, you know, this life is a time of grace. As Our Lady says, that every day is a day of grace. It's a day of opportunity for us to turn our hearts towards God.
Yeah, it's like our training ground.
Well, it is.
To get to heaven.
It is, and it's about entering into a relationship with God. It's not about observing commandments and this and that. It is about that, but we observe the commandments out of love. So what Our Lady is really trying to help us understand is that there is a relationship that needs to be healed between us and God. And unless we understand that, we'll never be able to open our hearts. I mean, you close your heart when you're upset with someone, when you can't forgive. That's when you close your heart. When you open it is when you start to trust again and you forgive. And so this is what Our Lady is saying to each one of us, that perhaps we need to forgive God if we think that He's done something wrong to us, or He's allowed something to go wrong in our lives. I mean, it's amazing how many people blame God for things that are really not His fault. Often they're a consequence of our own sinfulness, or the consequence of the sinfulness of others. God doesn't want anything to go wrong in our life. You know, he loves us. He can only love us. He can't harm us.
Yeah, I remember when I had my accident, I was on my way to Mass and I'd entrusted everything to God, and after I got run over, I was thinking, it's so hard to really entrust so much to God, you know, because of what happened after that, this, you know, huge suffering. But it's true. I mean, what else? What's the other option?
No. But that's the thing, you know, often we think, you know, if God really loves me, why has he allowed this to happen?
Yeah.
And therefore our hearts start to close up.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful. Okay. The next part of the message is to begin a new life through prayer, penance, and a decision for holiness.
wow. So there's the recipe for a new life.
Yeah.
Prayer, penance, and a desire,
A decision for holiness.
decision for holiness. So once again, it's through prayer that we can be reconnected with God.
Yeah.
But the penance is also goes hand in hand, I guess, with prayer, because the penance is sort of the prayer of the body. If you know what I mean, that you know, our body needs to be purified and detached from this life, and penance is one of the things that can help us to be detached from our earthly desires and earthly, you know, things that we look for in our life. And so we can start to think about the spiritual life. So this time of Lent really is a time of grace. Perhaps that's what Our Lady's also referring to, that it's an opportunity for us to enter into, I guess, the passion and death of Jesus, so as to experience his resurrection in our own life. So we're always starting every day, I guess, to begin our new life. It's a decision we have to make. And that decision is a decision for holiness. Now, what is holiness? You know, a lot of people might sort of think, oh, to be perfect means that everything's in order. No. Holiness, I think, is to accept the reality of our life and to know who God is and to always trust and turn to him.
All right, we have to go to a break now. You're watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly. Hello and welcome back to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Father Aurelio Fragapane and we're discussing Our Lady Queen of Peace's message from the 25th of March 2017. Welcome back to the program, Father.
Thank you.
And Our Lady said also in her message, this time of spring moves you to a new life, to a renewal in your thoughts and hearts. So it's like she's giving us, it's almost like she's saying to you, to everybody on earth, I'm giving you another chance. Now start to renew your thoughts and renew your hearts, you know. It's like, because the secrets exist, something's going to happen. She's warning us, you know. These are gentle messages with love. If we don't listen, it's we that pay for it.
It's amazing that, you know, for the second time she says this is a time of grace, this is a time of spring.
Yeah.
So she's trying to help us be in touch with the present moment. And God is present in the present moment. And that's where things can happen. It's just making a decision that today is going to be the day that I'm going to turn my heart towards God.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we're in autumn. Lent started at autumn, actually on the 1st of March with Ash Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I was saying to the people there at the hospital during Mass, I was saying, you know, just like the earth has its seasons, even our soul has its seasons. And the church has its seasons. And it's a time of renewal, a time of, you know, being renewed and to start again. But I think that this time of spring, Our Lady is referring to something else. Because I remember Pope John Paul II in the year 2000, who's a saint now, said that this is a new springtime of the Church, where there's going to be a lot of young people who are going to be rising up to be the new saints of the millennium. And so it's sort of like a springtime for the Church, that we need to be in touch with it so that we can move with the time.
Yeah.
You know, spring just sort of, whether you like it or not, spring or autumn or summer comes and it goes, and it's sort of, you're caught up in it. So Our Lady wants us to be caught up in this season of this new springtime in the Church. Because there are many graces, but people are not tapping into it.
Beautiful. Our Lady went on to say, "Therefore, little children, I am with you to help you to say yes to God and to God's commandments with resoluteness." I love this because she's really encouraging us to say yes, to really give our yes to God, but not just wishy-washy, but to live the commandments with resoluteness, like to be really firm in it, to not muck around with it, not take it lightly. There is a reason for it to be there.
I mean, it's interesting that she says this on the 25th of March, which we celebrate the Annunciation, where Our Lady said yes.
Yes.
And I was reflecting on it a few years ago, that her yes, her one yes, was many other yeses right through the life of Christ. It wasn't just a one yes. You know, it was yes even at the foot of the cross when she didn't understand. And so for us, even though we might sort of think, yes, we believe in God, is it a real yes? Is it a 50% yes? Or is it 100% yes? You know, we need to be decisive. You know, if we're truly believing in God, then are we going to church? I was having a conversation with a good Italian lady. She's probably watching tonight. I won't say who she is. But she said, "Father, I believe in God. I love God. But I don't have to go to church on Sundays. I can pray to God at home." I said, "But it's one of the commandments." And that's what Our Lady is saying.
It's a mortal sin, isn't it?
Well, in the church teaching it is. And often people don't understand why it's a mortal sin. It's because we're cutting ourselves off from the source of life. Source of salvation is there at the Mass, at the Eucharist. You know, on the Sunday, it's the day of the Lord. You know, we're celebrating the day of the resurrection. And if that's not important enough for you to go to church, then it's a sign that perhaps you're not tapping into that salvation that God is offering us. So that's why it's a mortal sin in the eyes of the Church, because we're saying no to that. I mean, I said to this lady, look, you know, we don't go to church out of obligation or because it's a commandment. We go because we love God. And I said to her, look, you know, I've been going to Mass for the last 25 years, every Sunday. Not only every Sunday, but every day. Because there's a great desire to receive Jesus in the Eucharist. You can't receive Jesus in the Eucharist at home. You can't say, there is Jesus. Yeah, God is everywhere, but there's a true presence of Christ there in the Blessed Sacrament. You know?
While we're on that subject, some people, like if they go to a funeral or a wedding or a baptism or something, they may not have been going, they may be born Catholics, you know, baptised Catholics, but not go to Mass regularly or live the, you know, the Catholic, practice the Catholic life, you know, faith, but they go to communion. Maybe some people aren't educated that they're not meant to go to communion.
Well, you see, in their conscience, they believe they've done nothing wrong, and that they're in communion with God. But you're right, if we're in a state of mortal sin and we receive communion, it doesn't do us any good. It actually is an offence to God, because we're saying we're in communion with God because we're receiving Jesus, who's truly present in the Eucharist, but our life is saying a different thing. We're not really in communion with God.
We have to. Yeah, I was speaking to another priest, and he said, "We'll say that on the show." And I was thinking, "Oh shit!"
Well, there's a lot of controversy about what other priests might say or people think. But if you think about it logically, I mean, if you really want to be in true communion with God, then you live the commandments, which means every one of those commandments.
Exactly. We have to go to break now.
Okay.
You're watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.
Go till I hear much breath of thy Spirit flowing in me. Go till I hear much breath of thy Spirit flowing in me.
Hello and welcome back to Spirit of Life. I'm Morella Rich, and if you've just joined us, we're here with Father Aurelio Fragapane, and we're discussing Our Lady Queen of Peace's message from Medjugorje on the 25th of March 2017. Welcome back to the program, Father.
Thank you.
So I'll continue with the end of Our Lady's message. In the last paragraph, Our Lady says, "You are not alone. I am with you. Through the grace which the Most High gives me for you and your descendants. Thank you for having responded to my call." So she's basically assuring us that we're not alone. We're not in this world alone. She's with us because of the grace that God is giving her to be here with us. So we need to be in touch with that, to feel it and to sense it. Like you said, it's not something we can see. We need to just let our heart and soul feel it.
Yeah, and to believe it. I think, faith can help us see those things that we can't see. And so we have to open the eyes of our mind and our hearts to listen to these words and to believe them, that Mary is really there as our mother. And she's there behind us. She's there supporting us, protecting us, imploring God to have mercy on us. I was just thinking, just even this week, there was a patient who was alone and dying. And I thought, how sad that this person is alone. And I spent some time with this patient. But just to think that Our Lady's saying, you are not alone, that means a lot to think. When someone is dying, when someone comes, it's a huge support. And now there's other ways that we can try to understand what Our Lady is saying. I do quite a bit of cycling, and often I'm cycling alone. And often when there's the wind and I'm tired, I find that I slow down quite considerably. And I'm struggling, and then someone just zooms past me. And I don't know what it is, but I get this courage and strength and this energy just to follow. And I keep up with this guy. And it's like I'm being carried behind this other cyclist. And so we can do the same thing in the spiritual life. Our Lady's saying we're not alone. And that's the reality. We have got a communion of saints in heaven. That's what we say in our creed. That are up there barracking for us and cheering us on. But we need to hear it. We need to believe it. And it can make a huge difference in our life.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I also believe Leon the Grand, who recently died, who's a big supporter of Medjugorje and brought it to Australia, I believe he's a saint in heaven, and I'm already saying Saint Leon the Grand. I mean, he hasn't been beatified or anything or canonised, but it's just happened. But he's someone who's really, beautiful, who really did live, the life Mary's asking, lived all her messages so well. And also, Our Lady also said, "What I have started in Fatima, I will finish in Medjugorje."
Oh, really?
And you will be going to Fatima to the 100th anniversary. Can you tell us a little bit about what Our Lady started in Fatima, so the viewers know?
Well, it'll be the 100th anniversary on the 13th of May, 2017. So she appeared in 1917 to 3 children, Lucia, Jacinta and Francisco. And she asked them basically to pray the rosary and to make sacrifices for sinners. And she was saying that a lot of souls go to hell because they have no one to pray for them. And so these children were shown visions of purgatory, hell, and heaven. And they were entrusted with 3 secrets, which, finally the church has, finally revealed. One of the 3rd secret was revealed in the year 2000, when I was actually there in Fatima, and Pope John Paul II was, celebrating the beatification of these 2 children. And Lucia was actually present also at the Mass.
Oh, and what was the 3rd secret?
Well, part of the 3rd secret was a vision of an angel with a sword of fire aiming it at the earth, about to destroy it. And Our Lady sort of stops this flame from the angel to protect the earth. So there was this sense that, the earth was, we were in danger of a nuclear war, basically. And the angel was saying, penance, penance, penance. The angel said that 3 times. And then there was another part of the vision where the children saw, and these 2 of these children, Jacinta and Francisca, are actually going to be canonized at this ceremony that will take place, which can be watched on the internet live.
Beautiful.
The official Fatima website.
Okay.
But the part of the 3rd secret is that they saw this man in white going up a huge mountain and kneeling at a cross, and cardinals and bishops were behind him and the laity, and they're all being shot and killed.
Oh.
So the Pope is killed, and there's blood pouring out from this wooden cross, and these angels are collecting the blood and then pouring this blood onto the earth. And the idea was that Our Lady was saying that the last 100 years, the Church has never had so many martyrs die for the faith than in the last 2,000 years.
Yeah.
And it's the blood of the martyrs that are helping the souls to go to heaven. And so we're sort of, encouraged to take part in offering up sacrifices and penance, to save souls. I mean, ultimately, that's what is truly important at the end of our life.
So when things are difficult in everyone's life, they can offer it up as a penance.
Yeah, we don't have to go looking for penances.
Yeah, exactly.
And the saints used to whip themselves and, do terrible things, but we don't have to look for penances. There's plenty around.
Yeah.
So we'd like a blessing, perhaps.
Yes, if that's good, you could give us all a blessing. That would be beautiful.
So, Lord, we ask your blessing upon all those who are watching tonight. May you bless them and their families. May you bring them closer to you. Consecrate their hearts to the Immaculate Heart of Mary and to your most sacred heart. And may the blessing of Almighty God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit come down upon you, remain with you forever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for coming on the program, Father.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Our Lady always said, if the priests bless you, it's as if Jesus is blessing you himself. So Jesus has blessed us all. You've been watching Spirit of Life. I hope you enjoyed the program. We'll see you again soon.